All right, so we'll record. So we just did cancel the cancellation. So, is everything okay? Hold on one second while I get your chart. We're following up to last time we met meeting. And is there any way you can keep this appointment today is the goal? And our ammunition for that is reason for return. What did we document in the chart to show why they were coming back at this interval, whether it's 4 months, 3 months, or 6 months, right? That makes sense? Okay.
Yep.
All right.
So we need to make sure we're pulling up that chart.
Yes.
Mhm.
Yep. Because you got to go get the if Brittany writes down something in the notes, I need to go see what that is, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's our reason for return. See, stopping cancellation. Yeah, we did it in November. So reason for return, right? I'm concerned about this. I'm assuming you're concerned about it too, Ricky Bobby. Yeah. Okay. Therefore, I'm recommending we see you no more than 6 months from today. But it makes sense to go get that appointment scheduled. Yeah. That reason for return that we document is what we're looking for.
Okay.
All right. All right. Put that done. Now, today I want to talk about approval addiction. Have you guys ever heard that term before?
No, never.
Okay.
Approval addiction.
Do January 23. I've got it in here as our to-do. So approval addiction is, have you ever heard of fear of rejection?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It's like that. Approval addiction is, I don't really want to talk to them about that because I'm afraid they won't like me. Does that make sense?
Yep.
You've heard things, maybe call reluctance would be another way of saying it. You know, the dogs have no fear of rejection. They run every time the doorbell rings, they run to the door like the door's for them, and they want to see who's there, and they're excited. And people are like, get away from me, get away from me. They don't care. They have no fear of rejection. We have been told no enough, or have seen someone rejected that we're like, oh, I don't want to feel that. And so we have a tendency to pull back into a safer zone. Now, what does that have to do with dentistry? When we are presenting ourselves or the treatment plan or diagnosis, talking to the patient about when to schedule, financial arrangements, stopping cancellation verbiage, any of it, if we're at all approval addicted, if we're all at all holding back, it's going to create a less than ideal result for us. So a lot of the verbal skills that we talk about have to be delivered in confidence. If you can't deliver them in confidence, they're not going to have the same results. So my favorite topics for, I'm going to get into some stuff with you today. Say that again, Iman.
I'm telling my girls we don't have that problem here.
Yeah, I think we do.
Pretty confident.
Confident.
That's good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm going to give you some verbal skills that will help you see if it's there here in a second. So let me put it this way. Everybody has some form of approval addiction at some level. It could be more at home than it is at work, or at certain patients or whatever. It'll show up in some place. And so how do we keep that in check? Right? How we keep that in check is key. So when, I don't know, doctor, did you ever, in dental school, create you have this, articulated model, and you're doing a wax up on a number, 3, and you've worked on it for 2 days, and you bring it up to the professor and you hand it to the professor, and he takes the articulator and goes bang, 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 bang to see if it holds together and the tooth crumbles. Did you ever experience that, or somebody in your class experience that?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah. I mean, these are the types of things like, I don't want to give, it creates this sense of, okay, how do I do this the next time? So, and it's like Groundhog Day. Every day we're doing the same thing. Maybe you guys ever seen that movie Groundhog Day, where you see that you do the same thing every day, and you're just trying to get better and better every single day, every opportunity you get. So I want to talk to you guys about how to make sure we keep any sort of fear of rejection or approval addiction in check. Okay? So that nothing is getting in the way of us holding back. And this, we'll call it approval addiction, just keep consistent here, starts the moment your alarm clock goes off. Now, what's the button on the alarm clock that we all hit when it goes off?
Stop.
Oh,
Stop.
there it
Alexa,
is.
turn off.
All right. Yeah.
I do it in my sleep and I don't even realize I'm doing it. Yeah.
Now, some people,
I hit the snooze button.
No, I hit the stop.
a lot of people hit the snooze
button.
button. All right. Yeah. Now, it's what do you say the moment you hit whichever button you're hitting, right? What are you saying internally?
5 more minutes.
Yeah. Oh gosh, just a little bit more time, right?
5 more minutes. 5 more minutes.
Yeah, 5 more minutes. What's 5 minutes gonna do, right? What we're fooling ourselves, huh? So at that moment, the internal voices start kicking in. And we don't want to be ignorant of the reality of the world, but we also don't want to create an influx of negativity that is unnecessary by what we say up here. So how do you start your day? What do you start saying to yourself that moment you wake up? For me, I go into prayer. I go to prayer mode. I stretch. I start, talking about how the day is going to go. I start proactively predicting, saying, all right, I'm gonna give myself the best shot. It doesn't always work, but it works more times than not. Meditation, focus, self-talk. What are you communicating? So some people have a harder time with that. Other people, it's very natural and they love it and they do it. Everybody has self-talk. Everybody has voices going on upstairs. Everybody has some sort of communication. It could be just a song playing in your head when you wake up. There's something, there's a radio station that you're tuned to. Now, what we have to understand is when we're born, think about did we talk about this? Think about the dimmer switch. Have we ever talked about that before?
Oh,
When you're born, the dimmer switch, the button's pushed, right? The light comes on. And then from that moment on, we start turning the dial up and down. How bright am I going to be in the room? So remember I said we're going to call it approval addiction for now. I want to transition to another phrase. It's called self-esteem. That you have heard of.
yes.
Okay. So I want you to imagine that you're 5 years old to 18 years old, anywhere in that, maybe even 22, somewhere in that range. Okay. Younger is fine. How are you developing your self-esteem? How is that created? This is something we would write down. So we'll write down self-esteem equals, this comes from a book called, Robert McGee's book called Search for Significance. How are you developing your self-esteem at a young age? What would you say?
Probably your parents and
Okay.
their opinion of you, or
Yep.
their praising you.
Yep. It's called perception of others. Yep.
Mhm.
Yep. Exactly. And what was the other one?
Your confidence.
Yeah, that's what self-esteem is. How are you developing that confidence? And one answer that's been given is perception of others. Parents, could be teachers, coaches, right? The feedback we're getting from other people starts to create something. And what else would you say?
Maybe like your successes or
It's called
failures.
performance. Yeah, it's called
Mhm.
performance. Yeah.
Mhm.
So perception of others plus performance. Now, here's what Robert McGee says. He says that's a bunch of crap. Because my self-esteem should not be dictated by somebody else. Good parent, good teacher, bad teacher, whatever it is, coach feeding into me. I got cut by a coach playing for basketball, and that had an effect on me. Now I was in high school, I played college basketball. So that, if I had let that affect me, and I didn't know really what I was doing back then, but if I had let that affect me and believe what he believed about me, I would have tried again, right? Performance, perception of others, whatever it is. So what Robert McGee says is that dimmer switch, that hand that's on that dial, self-esteem or confidence comes from, it's in the word self-esteem. Where does it come from?
Yourself.
Yourself.
Mhm.
Your self-talk. What are you saying to yourself? And whatever voice, negative or positive, you're feeding, that's the voice that's going to win, whether you're confident or not. Now, we're not talking about arrogance. We're not talking about cockiness. We're not talking about bravado or false bravado or overconfident, right? We're talking about a realistic amount of confidence. So we use the number 10. So we call it being a 10. And when you're being a 10, your patient can feel that. When you're being an 11, patients can feel that too. That's not where you want to be. But when you're a 9, an 8, a 7, patients can feel that as well. Do I really want you doing my dentistry? Does this make sense?
Yeah.
So the moment that alarm clock goes off, the self-talk starts creating what the number is that you're projecting to the people you interact with that day. You know, if there's a lot of traffic on the way to work, oh yeah, you know, you get that reaction. Kids are making you run late, or vice versa. You know, who's yelling at who in the morning? So I want you to be conscious and aware of what your 10 is. Is it in check? How are you working on it? What are you speaking to yourself the moment the alarm goes off and throughout the day? So now I have songs that I play on my phone. I put my phone in my back pocket and it plays the music that I want to hear in the morning instead of whatever song may have been playing subconsciously. And as I consciously communicate to myself throughout the day, my subconscious accepts that. You guys ever heard that before? The conscious mind, the subconscious mind. So your subconscious mind is a blank hard drive that just sends whatever data you've already given to it back and forth to your conscious mind. So if you tell it something, that's the programming it writes. You've probably heard negativity begets what?
Negativity.
Positivity begets
Positivity.
You've heard this before. So your conscious mind speaking to your subconscious mind, and then it just sends that signal throughout the day subconsciously. As you're not sending messages, it starts reminding you of that. Okay. So in 1998, I heard a lot of this. I was awoken to this. I had no idea this was a thing. I was 23 years old and I went, oh my gosh, this makes a lot of sense to me. What am I? And back then, you know, we had Tom and Jerry cartoons, the angel and the devil, you know, cat on each shoulder saying, eat the mouse, don't eat the mouse, eat the mouse, don't eat the mouse. You know, that's how I related it. I was like, oh, I wonder which voice I'm feeding. Which voice am I listening to? Right. So it really helped me change my focus. And it also helped me change in my interaction with my clients. I started coaching at 25. So it's been a long time. So what do you say when you wake up? What do you say throughout the day? Your patients are hearing that from you throughout the day as well. They're getting a reflection of that. So number one on approval addiction and beating it is be a 10. Use your self-talk to be a 10. Okay. Now, the second part of that is your team. How does your team encourage each of you to be 10s? Right? How can I support you to have a good day today? How are things going today? Oh, how can I support you? How can I help you move that in the right direction, in a positive direction? I don't want to. Okay, I'll give you some time. So ever have, not in this office, but in another dental office you worked in where two team members didn't get along? There's this unspoken friction. Do you think patients pick up on that?
Definitely.
And there goes case acceptance, just down a notch. So this is it's a real important factor when it comes to how you deliver to the patient. The patient feels confident in your competence. I feel like this is the right place for me. They really feel like I really feel like they knew what they're talking about. My wife just had a graft on 23 through 25. She clenches too much. And the periodontist, you know, his bedside manner is what it is. And she's like, he really knows his stuff. He's younger. So I really like the way he communicated with me because he was really confident that it was the right procedure to do. You know, that's what patients want to hear. So now my favorite part, number 3, limiting terms. How your approval addiction may show up in your communication style is through limiting terms. What I mean by that is the things that we say that create doubt in the patient's mind. And there are basically 3 categories of limiting terms that I'll give you. Okay, so number 1, these are words that we use that diminish the condition, the concern. They devalue the severity of the problem. Okay, so for example, Yvonne, on average, what would you say a 2-surface posterior composite filling costs? What's our fee on average, or our office fee?
285.
Okay, perfect. I was thinking 250. 285 is great. And when we say to a patient, you have a little cavity in there, or you have a small cavity, or you have a tiny cavity, or we just need to, right? It starts to devalue. It doesn't sound like 285. It sounded to me like 150. Okay. Oh, it'll be quick. No big deal. It'll be a simple appointment, because we're trying to make them feel comfortable coming back. But then the cost is this. At a patient, gosh, back in the day, our fee was $85 for an extraction. And he was probably back there for 15 minutes. And he comes out and he goes, $85 for 15 minutes of his time? I was there thinking, man, can you imagine if he wasn't good at it and it took him an hour to extract that tooth and you paid $85 for it and you didn't have a good experience, you know? So we had to talk with the patient about what you're really paying for. But your limiting terms show up in a subconscious level. This is why we talk about the self-talk first. You may not even be aware that you say things like little. You have a little bit of bleeding here. You have a small cavity, a pinhole cavity. These diminish the value, the severity of the situation. So that's category 1, things that minimize the condition. Category 2 would be filler words. This is where I have to be really careful. Just, kinda, like, possibly, maybe you might want to think about someday considering a slight chance of moving forward with something like this. If you want to go home and think about it, let us know. Like, totally. What's my daughter say? My daughter's one daughter says like over and over again, and the other daughter says literally over and over again. I've had clients, doctors who'll say, to be honest, at the beginning of every sentence, to be honest, it loses its value, right? So you're not consciously aware of that. So my job every day is to be focused on making sure that I don't say or and I fail every day. But I get better every day too. So I have to be conscious of it. What was that?
So should we just not speak? She said.
Yeah.
No, you keep working on it every day.
Yeah.
I'm the youngest one. That's why that's all in my vocabulary right now.
Like, yeah.
Literally.
Kinda.
No, for real though. No,
For real though. Yeah. Kinda is another one that sneaks in there. It's kind of a, well, is it or isn't it? So what we have to do is make sure that our patients aren't hearing those words, because they create doubt.
Yeah.
It sounds unwavering. Now, the third category that we're all guilty of, that is dental jargon. We say to a patient, sitting there talking to the assistant, you have tooth number 3 has a large MODL amalgam with defective margins, and there's a class 5 buccal with a furcation. So let's do crown lengthening, crown buildup, and a crown. Now, out of all that, what's the patient hear? Their ears tune into one word. What do you think the one word they heard was?
The crown.
Crown. And what do they think of when they hear the word crown?
Money.
Too much money.
Money. And they
Just
don't.
pull it.
Yeah.
Just pull it.
Oh gosh, crown. It's not bothering me. Just, yeah, exactly. So we have to be careful when we use dental jargon that the patient isn't hearing something they shouldn't be hearing. I have a doctor, this associate that I work with, and his associates will record their exams, send them to me, and then we listen to them together. And it's advanced coaching. And he was doing the overhear psychology, calling out to the assistant the conditions. And he said EXT on all thirds. That's something we would say. But at the moment, he was touching 8 and 9 as he was going through the exam. He was just kind of in this area, and he just called out EXT on all thirds. Now, from that moment on, that patient heard nothing. So he heard the buckle of 8 teeth, did not hear the lingual, did not hear anything else the rest of the exam. And how I know why? At the end, the patient said to the doctor, this is Dr. Davis, said, "Are you recommending that you have my front teeth extracted?" Because right here, he said EXT on all thirds. And they just were trying to put 2 and 2 together and didn't know what it all meant.
Yeah.
So we have to be very careful of the dental jargon, the third category that we use. What I ask is that you define things. So if you catch yourself, saying periodontal disease, define what that is. Otherwise, they're going to wonder why you're talking about their feet. If you say malocclusion, define what that means. Furcation, you name it. Pick a dental term that we use. I have no idea where these things came from and why we use them. Supposedly they're shortcuts, but they don't help in our communication with the patient at all. All right, you with me?
Yeah.
All right. Now, what I would like you to do for your homework is, do you guys have like a whiteboard in a kitchen area or team room, or do you have a flip chart or anything like that?
No.
We have a tiny little board.
Okay. You could use that. Just a piece of paper on the table in a central meeting area where patients aren't around.
Okay.
What I would like for you to do is every word you hear that is a limiting term, just write it down. Now, you don't have to put the person's name who says it. That you do not have to do.
No, y'all should call each other.
You don't have to do that, but you do have to write the word down. So if you heard doctor use the word little 4 times, you'd go in there and you write little, 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 little.
Dr. Reed.
Don't put anyone's name. And then when you walk in and see it, you go, "Oh, I wonder if I'm saying that.
What does that mean? Oh.
Was that me? That's right. I better be aware of the words I'm using." Exactly. So
This doesn't count towards us, right? It is only for
everybody.
patients, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now, well, and look, you bring up a good point. When you talk about when you guys are talking just amongst yourselves.
Yeah, for us.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it does. But here's the challenge. Here's the tug of war. The more you use those words regularly in all areas of your life, the more likely you are to use them with your patients.
Yeah.
And that's the tug of war. I'm going to talk this way over here. I'm going to talk this way over here. And I'm going to talk this way here. That's challenging.
It is. Just like the other day, Jennifer goes, "Okay, you can go to one of the moms. You can go to op 1." She goes, "I'm sorry. You can go over to the first room." I'm like, we're so used to saying op 1, op 2, op 3.
Yeah.
Well, she's not gonna know what op 1 is, like, so I'm sorry, like, it's in the first room.
We do that all the time, though.
Yeah. So care room. I don't like treatment, but operatory sounds like you're having surgery. So I just say room 1.
Room.
I just say room 1. So find what words work for you and what doesn't work for you. Sometimes you're just dropping the words that don't work for you. You're not necessarily always replacing them, but I get pretty picky. For example, waiting room. What am I suggesting that has to occur if they're in that room?
Sitting there waiting.
Yeah, versus reception area. It creates a different perspective. It starts to it starts to communicate. Have we talked about NLP before?
No.
Okay. So NLP, everybody uses NLP. It stands for Neuro Linguistic Programming, meaning the words you use speak to someone else's psyche. You've probably heard the phrase, "We teach people how to treat us."
Yes.
You teach people how to treat you. Okay. It's along the same lines. NLP is occurring all the time. For example, if a kid spills something at breakfast and the dad yells, "What's wrong with you?" What's the programming that's occurring?
That something's wrong with the child.
Yeah. You hear that over and over and over again, right? So we use programming in our communication, whether we're conscious of it or not, whether we're on purpose on it or not, on purpose about it or not. So what I call it is framing. how you frame the conversation, the things you leave out, the things you don't say. I don't call it operatory, I call it a room. I don't call it a waiting room, I call it a reception area. I'm framing it for them. There's things I don't say, like I don't say crown during the exam because I don't want them thinking about money. I want them thinking about the diagnosis.
Mm.
So what do I leave out of the frame? Outside the frame is important. Instead, we say, if I call it out, I say foundation full coverage. And the assistants, you guys know what you would chart with that, right? You just build up in a crown. You
Build
just
up
put
in
it
a crown foundation.
Yeah, foundation full coverage.
All of that, I wouldn't know.
Well,
Teacher.
no, you would know.
You
I
would
mean,
create your
now-
own language. Now you would know, right? You would create your own language for that.
Coverage foundation. What do you say?
But you want makeup?
Makeup, yeah, makeup on it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, maybe we can call it like a porcelain.
Oh,
versus
yeah, of
crown.
course.
Porcelain doesn't.
No, because then if they don't need a porcelain crown, it'll be for
That's a lot of words. Word on.
Full coverage.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Remember.
Don't want to scare them. Don't wanna
Yeah.
scare them.
And then they always push the crown to
Or
cap.
BUPVC, they don't know that.
That's too much. BUBC,
BUPVC,
PVC.
SRP.
But half the time I already know what you're
I
gonna
feel
put.
like BUC will be
Like if you've
better
already
than
done a root canal,
because
for
we
now,
always say like
Yeah.
MOL. We don't say measles, those already.
True.
We say MOL, so I think BUC would. go to
BU.
the crown.
So this is what I want you to start writing down and start to figure out, is that a limiting term? You know, what could we change that to? Some other ones that are limiting for me that I'm really picking on, things like need. You need a crown. You need an appointment. People just don't like to be told what they need to do.
Mhm.
They oppose whatever we're teaching them about their health. I'd rather use what would be a better, what's the opposite of need? What would we tell them?
Recommend.
Recommends good. Want.
I've heard Dr. Reed use it.
Recommend.
I recommend you get well, then. I recommend like a filling in this tooth right here. I've heard you say that.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you're conscious, but
No.
Yeah.
Recommend, what else?
Want is the word that we're looking for.
you're
So-
gonna want this instead of that.
You want this? You want
Yeah.
that?
So how I say it is, how do you feel about moving forward with this plan? Yeah, that sounds good. Okay. Well, then we're going to want to go ahead and get you scheduled for an appointment. Let's go up front. When I go up front, I say, Yvonne, Ricky Bobby wants to move forward in getting his appointment scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
I don't say, Yvonne, Ricky Bobby needs this.
Mm-hmm.
It's a subtle framing that you change. It's very subtle. And it goes a long way when you stack all these things together.
Mm-hmm.
Now, other things I get really picky on. Cancel. We had a cancellation. We had a change in the schedule. We have an opening. They all, to me, are synonymous. So, we'd be willing to see you at this time. Remember that one? Willing to see you. We'd be willing to see you at this time. So there's just limiting terms go a long way out there, and we're not going to be able to always talk about all of them. But as you turn your ears, like, should we be saying that? Let's talk about that as a team. Is this a limiting term? Does it create the right response we want when people hear it? You guys can decipher that. Okay. All right.
I didn't know that change in schedule wasn't good. I thought, because that's what we were using before.
Yeah, we had a change in the schedule, which means somebody else canceled, which means if I ever need to cancel, it's okay because look, you're calling other people to fill that void. So now I know I have permission to reschedule with you. It's weird. You didn't say that, but that's what I heard. That's what I got out of it. And yeah, we'd be willing to see you tomorrow at 2:00 if you were certain it would work in your schedule. Yeah. And that conversation comes out of when someone they reschedule weeks and weeks and weeks out there, and then as you're about ready to hang up the phone, they say, "Hey, if you get something sooner, will you let me know? What are they suggesting is going to happen?" Some other patient is going to do what they just did to me. No, that's not how this works. Because then I teach, oh yeah, we'll put you on our ASAP list, our cancellation list, our quick fill list. I don't have a list as far as they're concerned. Because if I say I have a list, right? If I say I have a list, then they think, oh, it was okay for me to cancel, and somebody else is going to cancel too, and they're going to move me up. So instead, I say, you know what? Let me talk with doctor. Let me see what I can do. Now, we know in this room, I'm waiting for a cancellation to be able to get them in sooner. But I don't tell them that. I frame it. I call them up and I say, yeah, I was talking with doctor. I was talking with Brittany, and she said she'd be willing to see you tomorrow at 2:00 if you were certain it would work in your schedule. So subtle things like that that change the perception of what's going on. That creates an advantage for us long term, hopefully starts changing the patient's behavior so they don't cancel anymore.
Mhm.
Does that make sense, guys?
Yes.
Okay, awesome. Questions about limiting terms before we jump into the next part of this?
Mm, Nope.
Okay. So, permission statement. Have you ever heard of that phrase before?
No.
Okay, so permission statement, think P's and Q's. What does P's and Q's mean? You guys know what that means? P's and Q's?
Alphabet.
P's
I've
and
heard
Q's.
it, but to be like on top of everything, right?
P's and Q's, like use your P's and Q's. Use your pleases, right? And your ask your questions, right? Say please and thank yous. P's and Q's. P's and Q's. Use your please and your thank yous, right? P's and Q's. So be polite. So a permission statement is a great way to be polite. P's and Q's, your pleases and your thank yous. So permission statement goes, you ever have the feeling that the patient just feels like you're trying to pressure sell them on something, and we don't want that, but they feel like, you know, that need word, right? You need a crown. They just feel this angst. Whether it's subconscious or conscious, you can somehow catch that vibe from them. The permission statement is a great way to not only eliminate your approval addiction, fear of being shot as the messenger, but also negate their fear of being pressure sold. And how you know they feel that way, Brittany, has doctor ever walked in the room to do the exam and the patient says something like this: "Don't find anything today, doc"?
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
Yep. A lot.
That's where they're riding in this, and so this permission statement will neutralize that reaction. Now, those are only 30% of the people externally processing that. They're external processors. There's 70% who are internal processors, are thinking it. They're just not saying it. Okay, so don't find anything today, doc. Nothing to see here. Keep moving. That whole thing. They're worried. They don't want to spend money. They don't want to have problems. They don't want to run into, oh my gosh, I just want to have my teeth cleaned. That's all they're looking for. The permission statement allows it to be just a more comfortable interaction. Now, I'm going to give you how it sounds, and I'm going to break it down for you. It sounds like this. Let's say I'm the doctor. I say, Ricky Bobby, I'm going to do an exam today, and I want to be able to share with you everything I see that would deserve your attention. Is that okay with you? They say yes. Now, my fear of being shot as the messenger. Now for them, I say, and just so you know, Ricky Bobby, if we make any recommendations, you're in the driver's seat. You're in control of how you move forward with those recommendations. Does that sound fair to you?
Yeah, I was doing that for a while, and
Yeah, you were.
I kind of got off the wagon with that one.
We had talked about this in our one-on-one calls.
Yep.
All right. So I want to break this down. So it's two parts. The first part is for me to feel better about not being approval addicted. I want to share with you everything I see. So now I'll do hygiene. So I'm going to evaluate the health of your gums. I'm going to use my ruler. I'm going to measure how healthy the foundation of your teeth are. And I want to be able to share with you everything I see that would be of importance to you. Is that okay? Okay, great. Now, I don't have that fear of being shot as a messenger. If I did or not, I'm using my P's and Q's. It's very polite. Even if I didn't have fear of rejection, right? If I'm very confident, it's just a polite way of doing things. And then I'm going to give them permission. Now, what they're saying is, don't find anything today. Don't find anything today. Don't find anything today. Don't find anything today. And if they're saying that over and over and over again in their head, are they hearing what I'm saying? No, they can't hear that. There's a roadblock in between their ears and what I'm communicating. That's why, team, when the doctor says at the end of the appointment, do you have any questions for me? No. She gets up and leaves. They turn to you and immediately what do?
Ask questions.
Ask questions. Because they're not able to hear.
Focusing, yeah.
Yeah, they're not able to focus on that. So we neutralize that by NLP, by programming and framing and saying, okay, Ricky Bobby, if we make any recommendations, just know this, there's no pressure from us. You have the final say in deciding at what pace you move forward with those recommendations. Does that sound fair to you? And you can play with that. You can make that your own. We don't script you, but that's the concept. Get permission to tell them their condition, give permission for them to be in control, which is just acknowledging what we're doing. Do you guys, let me put it this way. Did any of you get into dentistry because you were such a good salesperson? You thought, you know what, I'm going to use my sales skills in dentistry to sell dentistry. No.
Nope.
No.
In fact, most of you probably got into dentistry because you wanted just to help people. You wanted to care for people. Little did you know you were going to have to sell that concept to every single patient you interact with. There is no profession void of sales. It does not exist. Even the pastor sells something from up front. Even the artist sells something at some point.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? So even the pharmacist sells a pill at some point. You with me?
True.
Okay? What we don't want to do is become pressure sales people. Nobody likes that. Don't find anything today, doc. Nobody wants to be the opposition of that. So in order to make sure we don't get into pressure sales, we have to make sure we use the right verbiage so it doesn't come across that way. No matter what our intentions are, we have to make sure it doesn't come across that way. So if we don't want to be in pressure sales, then you should never hear this sentence. You need a crown. You need 4 quads of scaling and root planing. You need a filling. Do you hear how there's pressure sales in that when I put it that way?
Mm-hmm.
But yet we weren't cognizant of that 5 minutes ago. We just thought, hey, we want to help people. We want to care for them. But what their psyche hears is pressure. You with me?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Makes sense.
So a subtle change with your permission statement gives them the sense of control. And now they can do what they want to do, not what you're telling them they need to do. How do you do that? 95-5 rule. You sell the condition. You focus on that condition. So if you're going to sell something, right? If you're going to sell something, make sure you sell the diagnosis. You guys understand what that means?
Pretty much.
Okay. People don't buy a solution to a problem they don't perceive to have. Okay. I'm going to put here next time, 95-5 rule. With over here psychology. All right. We're going to dive into that some more next time. Okay. I want to wrap a bow on this. Approval addiction, where we started with, fear of rejection, being confident, right? So be a 10. A homework assignment you guys could do is define what does a 10 look like in our office. I had offices, they create these poster boards, they put 10 on it, and they put smile, look professional, engage, make eye contact. You know, they create, what is it for their culture? What does it look like to be a 10 in our office? So be a 10. You do that through using your self-talk. Okay. Number 2, as a team, encouraging each other to be 10s. Number 3, we talked about eliminating limiting terms. And there were 3 categories of limiting terms. Minimizing the condition, filler words, just kind of like, and dental jargon. And then number 4, permission statement. If you put these, we'll even call it 3 systems, because, you know, encouraging each other as a team, pretty just basic, you know, team camaraderie stuff. But if you put being a 10 self-talk, eliminate limiting terms, and permission statement in play consistently with every single patient, you will see a significant difference in your patient engagement with you and their willingness to move forward with care.
Mm-hmm.
More dentistry per visit is what you'll see. Make sense?
Makes sense.
Okay. All right. So what I would love for you guys from a, hey, application of this, put this in play, have a place to write down any limiting terms you have. Create a visual for what being a 10 looks like. And then write down, what is my permission statement? What do I like my permission statement to be? Both parts. Get permission, give permission. Move into wants, avoid needs. If you want to really start to apply this, you do those 3 things, I think you'll see a big difference immediately. Okay. Sound good?
Sounds
Yeah.
good.
All right. Questions about any of those 3 or 4 things?
No questions about that, but I did have a question about DenVantage because we're finally launching that.
Okay.
Okay, at what point would a patient with insurance benefit from that?
Okay. Patients with insurance that you accept assignment of benefit on, in other words, if you're in, let's say if you're in network with them, they cannot double dip.
Right, that makes sense. How about out of network?
But if you're out of network and the patient's benefits get sent to them, you can control that. Then yes, you can do that. They'll file their own claim. Have you heard of like there's like Christian medical savings plans that like everybody sends their money, you pay for it, and then you send the invoice, you get reimbursed. Have you guys heard of that?
Similar
Aflac?
stuff.
What is it?
Oh, like Aflac?
No, it's not owned by anybody. It's a nonprofit that everybody just pools their money together to pay for medical expenses for everybody. It's like a membership plan. Okay, so what happens is, let's say you do. When I say release and assign, does that mean anything to you on an insurance claim? Release and assign. Release and assign is on the claim form. There's 2 signatures. It says signature on file. Patient is authorizing the release of information. It says signature on file. It's saying patient, Ricky Bobby saying, Eric, go ahead at Dr. Reed's office, send the claim for me. I'm authorizing you to release my private information to my insurance company. Release. An assignment, there's another signature. And I'm also allowing you to receive my benefits on my behalf. Insurance company, don't pay me, the patient, pay my office. It's called release and assign. With me so far? When you uncheck assign, do not assign benefits to me, the check will go to the patient. So when that happens, you're out of network, patient, it's like not a good plan or whatever, and they want to pay the $35 a month to be in DenVantage, then yes, you could do that. They can have insurance because they're billing their own insurance. So what you do is you create the claim. You guys have Dentrix, right? Yeah. Create the claim in Dentrix, post a 0 payment immediately, but you've printed the paper claim and you hand them the paper claim and say, go get your money. They mail it to the insurance company pays them. You're not involved.
That's what we plan to do for secondaries from now on.
So
Do that.
have to come at full upfront.
She said, oh, Yvonne had a question.
So I'm gonna put zeros when I give them the claim?
If they are going to get assignment of benefits sent to them and you're not expecting any money, you need to zero out that claim so Dentrix doesn't believe you're still waiting for money.
Okay.
Yep.
They're gonna pay, right? You have to collect.
You have to collect.
Yeah,
it.
you have to collect upfront because their insurance is gonna pay them back.
Yeah.
So in other words, any patient who's out of network would benefit from DenVantage
They could.
or any.
Depends.
I'm
Depends. Let's say I have Aetna and you're out of network with Aetna and my benefit package is amazing and it pays everything. I don't have to pay anything when I come see Brittany anyway. Why would I enroll in DenVantage, pay another $30 a month to get free hygiene visits? I don't need that. But let's say I have Aetna and have a really crappy plan and I find I'm paying for half of everything. Every time I come in, because they reimburse so low, I may decide to enroll in a $35 a month membership plan so that my visit with her is free and I get 10% savings on doctor's side, and anything the insurance does pay, I get reimbursed for. But I pay Yvonne every time I'm here, anything I'm responsible for paying for. Those doctor visits. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so it's
Okay.
mainly for plans that aren't very good.
Yeah, plans that really just don't pay, probably pay 50% or less. You'd have to sit down and do the math and say, okay, if they're going to pay me $35 a month, let's say, let's just do it now. Let's say total visits are, I don't know, I'm making up a number, I gotta get out the calculator. $400 a year for hygiene, right? What is it?
$355.
$355. Okay, and divide that by 12 months. So I'm paying $30 a month to you, okay, for my premium, right? Well, at $355, let's say the insurance company pays half of that, $177 to me.
Mhm.
I paid $355 to you to get $177 back instead of just paying $177 out of pocket, right?
Mhm.
So I'd have to have a lot of dentistry to do to make that worthwhile.
Okay.
Brittany, are you saying that's math? I'm not doing math. Is that what you're saying?
No, it's working over here, but no. yeah.
Oh, okay.
That's too much paperwork. I mean, I guess the patient's doing it, so I don't care, but.
You almost have to get a very little amount of money reimbursed to make it worthwhile. Because here's the deal. Let me put it this way: would you rather pay half of $355 to get $355 worth of services, or would you rather pay all of $355 to get $355 worth of services?
Half, but when you have insurance, you're already paying it monthly out of your job.
Depends on if it's free or if you're paying for it. There's a lot that goes into that. Yeah.
That's what I'm saying, like, you're
Yeah.
also paying not only $30 a month to us, but you're also paying whatever they're taking out of your check,
Check.
so that combined with that, is it more than $355?
Yeah. No, I'm agreeing with you. I'm saying most people probably won't want to be in Advantage and have insurance, especially if they're paying for it.
It's mainly for.
But the main thing is not for the preventative, it was for the people that run max out.
Now, that's why I said if I
Thank
have
you,
a lot
Beverly,
of dentistry
over
to do, right? If I have a lot of dentistry to do, then it makes sense. Yeah, then it makes sense. Now I've got offices, I've got clients where they don't have all of their patients are enrolled in the plan because they're fee for service. It's all release only.
Right.
They hand all the claims to the patient, right? But if you're doing a mixed bag of that, it's going to probably be pretty rare where you have someone enrolled in it. You know, I have offices do it when they resign from Delta, because Delta always sends a check to the patient. So instead of the patient having to pay $300 for a hygiene visit at once, they can just divide that up monthly into the membership plan, and that makes sense.
Mhm.
Okay. All right. So, doctor, we did not get to asking for referrals. That was on our agenda.
But we do our internal promotion, so that kind of forces us to ask at the
Okay.
end of each visit.
All right. So good. So I will just maybe sprinkle some stuff on their next meeting that we have and just talk about different ways to do that. Okay.
Okay.
All right. Other questions about Advantage or?
Okay, just one last question about PPOs.
Sure.
Dentamax and the other similar umbrellas. Do you
Yeah.
recommend going out of network with those? Because even though we're going out of network with the 7 that we're working on, if they're under that umbrella,
It's not going to matter. Yeah. That's why you got to hit the top. You got to hit whoever's in charge of that fee. And by the way, if you had signed up for Guardian and you did not sign up for Humana, and all of a sudden you're just in Humana, you got to just say, no, don't do that. Sever that. I didn't agree to that, but you have to request that. You can get out of the 7. You can do that. But most likely what's going to happen is you're going to get out, whatever's up here, you have to get out of that one too.
Okay, so
I'm
we
trying to get out with Stigma, Dr. Reed,
so
and they told me I need to call Mavericks.
okay, so we need to go to those umbrellas first and foremost.
Possibly. Yes. It
Okay.
depends on the insurance. Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I haven't sent them a letter yet. Yeah, because you have to send it to. I gotta call them to accept it.
All right. Anything else from me?
Sir.
All right. Awesome. It's great seeing you guys.
Okay,
Yeah.
should we schedule you and I?
You and I have our meeting scheduled for
We already did.
February
Oh.
7th. Yep.
February 7th. Okay,
Yep.
sounds good.
Okay.
All right.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Take care, guys. Bye now.
Okay. Bye.